It is too cold for this Hello again, welcome back to the Sunday Update. I'm Lucas, as ever. I hope you're doing well. Now this week's been an odd one for me, in that, well, most of them seem to be odd these days. This week in particular, I've, as a result of events that have been happening, been doing a lot of musings on time. It's something that I often think about, I often wonder about, the stretching of time, or the infinite nature of time, or other such pretentious things, but this week it's been much more grounded in that I've been thinking just how short time is. So, so I'll address what became the big event of the week first, and that was on Friday. One of my best friends lost their dog. Now, I've never really been one to get emotional about pets, if I'm honest. Partly because I have an allergy to fur, which really, hindered me. But I really connected with this dog, Pippi, partly because of my experiences, partly because of my friend's experiences with her. She had a tendency to be a bit hyperactive, sure, don't we all? But she was a good dog, and she held a lot of sentimental value for my friend, and for the rest of us, really. And then Friday morning, she had a seizure and got diagnosed with a brain tumour and had to be put to sleep. I know I sound horribly callous and robotic about it, but really, that's the only way I cope with these sorts of things, by just sort of switching off my emotions and processing it almost robotically. It seems like a long time since I had to deal with the passing of a pet. Some of my friends have had pets pass away recently. I haven't had to deal with it that close up probably since my cat passed away. And that happened back in, oh goodness, well, it was year 3 for me, so mid-early noughties, sometime about 2004. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've had to do that. And another thing I realised throughout all this, on a slightly more selfish note, for everything I can do with words, and I like to think I can do a lot with words, I'm still not very good at comforting people. I never have been, at least not in person anyway. In person, I can handle it fairly well because, hugs. But when all I've got to go off are my words, then it becomes trickier for me. I think it's partly because I struggle with emotions anyway. Sometimes I struggle with my emotions, but more often than not, I'm struggling with other people's emotions, understanding them, knowing how they're feeling and how best to make them not feel like that. But yeah, I guess that's just something I'll have to work on. And in the meantime, rest in peace, Pippi. Elsewhere in the week, not really elsewhere to be honest, because it happened on the same day. That very morning, I managed to miss my academic meeting, which was the only chance I had to get my work looked at until next Friday. So, go me. I woke up at 7:30 for that 10 o'clock meeting, decided I could get an extra half hour sleep, and then got more sleep than I intended. I have no defence against it, not at all, but it was annoying. I mean, there's not really much more to say about that particular aspect of it, because, it was just my foolishness that led to it happening, so it's not as if I can start railing on people for that, that's just down to me. But it has been difficult, and once more it's down to the strikes. Again, I support them, I really do, but it's creating a lot of consternation in the department, and across many other departments I know. We're now at the most important time of our degrees. In music at least, this is worth 2/3 of our overall degree. Almost everything I'm doing this year is being assessed this semester, which means this is when the bulk of the work is being done, and when there's no staff around to look at your work and give you guidance, it's difficult, and more than difficult, it's stressful. I like to think that this will be resolved soon, and at least negotiations seem to be starting, so there's something, but I just don't see it ending anytime soon, and that's worrying, because that means that next Friday is the only opportunity I'll get for the foreseeable future to get all of my work looked at. If that happens, that's when I start to get really worried. That's when I start to, asking for reimbursements of tuition fees, even though I know that's not possible. I don't know. Quite frankly, I'm not thinking about it at the moment because, well, I hope it'll just be resolved, and even if it isn't, I want to make the best stab of this as I can. But if I'm being completely honest to myself, that may be harder to achieve than I thought. Yesterday I got the privilege of being able to go back home again for the first time in, well, quite a while actually. I don't tend to go home that much because my schedule never seems to let me. I've always got something on. It's never something too big, but it's just enough, but it's important enough and just big enough that it always disrupts my plans, and that's really annoying. But after fighting through icicle tunnels and snowdrifts and signal failures, I went home yesterday. I was only home for maybe 5 hours, perhaps even less than that, I'm not quite sure. It was so nice to be home, to have that time to recharge and not be worrying about what's going on at uni, what's going on the committees, what's going on everywhere really. And I got to see my parents, and I got to see my sister, who was so happy to see me, and it was absolutely adorable. And we still had serious talks and all that, but it was just really nice. Really, really nice. Plus, of course, it helps that I got to stay in a house with nice warm heating and nice cooked food, which is something that I can't always promise I'll get over here, it seems. It's probably a few weeks before I'll be able to go back again, and when that happens, this vlog's going to be an interesting one to record, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. The last in the time-related things that have been happening this week rude. The last in the time-related things that have been happening this week is the future. I've been thinking a lot about it, as have quite a few of my friends. With regards to them, it's been a case of looking at where they're going to do their degree next, if they're going to do an MA, if they're going to do conversion courses. The options are, I was going to say limitless, they're not limitless there. And for me, it's been trying to weigh up doing an MA versus staying at home and getting a job and earning a bit of money, which I think is what I'm going to do. I'm fairly set on that, but then I was fairly set on doing an MA about 2 months ago, so I don't know, plans might change. But one universal among all of us is that we're realising very quickly, perhaps a bit too soon, that, in, what is it now, less than 5 months, that's it. We've graduated and we've left. It's going to very soon be the case that the people we've spent the last 3 years around aren't going to be there anymore. If I'm honest, I am slightly worried about how lonely I'm going to get, because I thrive best around people. I've known that for a while. I occasionally consider myself a little introverted, particularly around new people and in large social occasions, but I thrive best with people. When all those people disappear, I am a little worried about how I'm going to be. And don't get me wrong, I do very much want to stay in touch with people, but that's always been awkward for me. I've never been good at asking for people's phone numbers, for asking for people's addresses so I can, send them Christmas cards like my parents do, because they're adorable. But that's never been my style. I want it to be, but there's a social anxiety there, whereby I just feel really self-conscious asking for details that are, so personal. And the last thing I ever want to do is make people uncomfortable. That's just something I'm going to have to overcome, I suppose. Here's to hoping. And that's about it. I know it seemed rather bleak this week, but I have been in fairly good spirits for most of it. I'm not too worried about that. It's just been a little existential more than anything. If you've enjoyed this, then I'm very glad. If you haven't enjoyed it, then let me know how I can improve it. Until the next time, I've been Lucas, you've been great, and you've been watching the Sunday Update. Thank you very much, and take care.